race fans, my name is Taylor and welcome back to Above the Yellow Line, the show where we talk all about the NASCAR Cup Series. We're going to go back in time as the playoffs kicked off last weekend with a lot of intrigue and a lot of upset. We're going to talk all about the action here on Above the Yellow Line coming right up. But after that, we're going to go to this week, talking about some updates and hot takes from the world of NASCAR and beyond. And finally, fast forwarding to this weekend's race, the Federated Auto Parts 400 at Richmond Raceway, the salute to first responders. We're going to talk all about it right here, right now. So without further ado, let's get to it. The Southern 500 was entertaining chaos and it left a lot of drivers upset. But there was one driver who was not upset. Up on your screen is the results of the Southern 500 with Denny Hamlin, who finally gets the monkey off his back, winning the first race of the 2021 season. This is the third Southern 500 he has won, and he adds his name to an exclusive list of drivers that have won both the Southern 500 and the Daytona 500 3 times. Those names are Cale Yarborough, Bobby Allison, Jeff Gordon, and now Denny Hamlin. So those are the results from last Sunday's race. Importantly from that race as well as looking at the point standings. Now before we look at the driver points, I'm going to show you guys a little bet I have going on with the Above the Yellow Line crew, Zach, Dom, Adam, and myself. We're doing garage picks and race picks as we've always done on the show, but for the playoffs specifically, we're going to see who can get the most right. Obviously from last race, if you know my race pick, I did not do so hot, therefore I had the least amount of points out of the whole group. But all you need to know is that the person who has the closest or best running race winning pick is awarded 4 points, then 3, 2, 1, so on, depending on how well you do. Same with the garage picks. So these are the points up for that right now. Like I said earlier, I am not doing too hot. I have 2 points. I am at the lowest of lows. I was last in every category we did in garage picks and race winning picks. And in the lead is Zachary Bell, who did outstanding, getting 8 points. He was top of the categories for race picks and garage picks. So he's in the lead. I am dead last. Hopefully I can make up for it this weekend at Richmond. Anyway, that is how our point systems stack out for our race winning picks and our garage picks. We have a bracket going on as well on social media and within our group. But those are how the point standings work for those. But now let's go to the driver's points, because never in my wildest dreams did I imagine Sunday would work out the way it did, and these drivers are now below the cutoff line. First off, let's talk about the obvious shock in the room. It is that 200 Motorsports cars, the team that has been the most dominant this season, already have 2 cars below the cutoff line. Also, technically during this race, all the drivers wrecked. Kyle Larson included. He wrecked in the final lap of the race trying to do a video game move against Denny Hamlin for the win. He wasn't able to get his car back to pit lane, so I'm going to count it as a wreck. Chase Elliott also wrecked, did not finish this race, but managed to stay above the cutoff line. And that is as good as it gets for Hendrick Motorsports, because the 2 below the cutoff line are William Byron, who did wreck out of the race, and Alex Bowman, who had early issues in the race, but he was able to continue. However, he did not have a good finish, finishing in the late 20s. Then at the bottom of the list, we have Michael McDowell, who was the dark horse pick going into the playoffs, wrecking out very early in the race. He is now in a must-win situation. And finally, a name that I think shocked me the most, Kyle Busch. He wrecked out of the first race of the playoffs, a guy I think a lot of us have on our championship for, already in a hole very early on. Don't worry though, we'll talk more about Kyle Busch in updates and hot takes. So all in all, moral of the story of the Southern 500 taking place last Sunday is that drivers we thought would do well really did not, and drivers we didn't think would do well showed up at the right place at the right time. But those are the standings. Those are how the results shaked out. Now I want to go to your comments before we go and rate this race. Brandon Matthews commented, "Was incredible racing all weekend, not just for the 500. Multiple racing grooves which led to amazing runs and crazy moves. Darlington has always been racing on a razor edge. Either you don't push hard enough or you push too hard and earn your stripe. Hashtag hometown track." Other comments I saw about this race, specifically from Ryan Ellis, said, "That was the best NASCAR race I've seen in a long time. Higher horsepower and dirty air didn't seem to ruin the raceability. Yeah, dirty air played a factor at times, but Darlington was awesome to watch. Great, authentic racing with low grip and people using multiple lanes." He went on to say, "I also think NASCAR on NBC did a great job with the overall broadcast, covered a lot of the field, highlighted smaller teams, and the camera angles they utilize really displayed the speed and chaos that is Darlington. And for that long of a race, I was entertained the entire way." To which I agree with. I agree with all of these comments actually, and this will actually go into our race rating above or below the yellow line. This race had intrigue, it had excitement, it had devastation. I cannot say intrigue enough, I think, in this video, but still, the 750 horsepower package with downforce was such a thrilling race to watch. I think it's the best package NASCAR actually has right now, and of course it's going to probably change with the next gen car. But nevertheless, the first stage was a little slow for my taste, but the rest of the race seemed to go by really fast, and I was pretty hooked in the whole time. So for that reason, and those reasons alone, I'm giving this race a 97% above the yellow line. The reason I'm docking it a few points is for bias reasons, which is because my playoff bracket is not where I want it to be right now, also because I'm losing in our above the yellow line crew bracket. But selfish reasons aside, and because the stage 1 was a little slow, my race rating is a 97%. So that was my race rating of the Southern 500 this year. Let me know in the comments below what you thought of this race, but for now, let's get into some updates and hot takes of the world of NASCAR and beyond. To start updates and hot takes, let's talk about Kyle Busch. I told you we'd get to him, so let's just start right off the bat talking about Kyle Busch and his hefty fine from Sunday's race, $50,000 from an incident he did on pit road after he exited the race after making contact with Austin Dillon around lap 126. He was clearly not happy about this and ended his night and put him in a pretty big hole to start his playoff season. Really not what he wants, not what he needs, especially trying to contend with the Hendrick cars, which at this point right now, a little sketchy with them too, starting to the playoffs rough as well. But the way he handled his frustrations wasn't the best. He went to pit road, sped there. Lots of people were having to move each other out of the way. He had orange cones he ran into, which if there's an orange cone, you are not supposed to hit them. Anyone that did driver's ed, took their driver's test, knows about orange cones in general, knows you don't run into them. Kyle had no regard for those, just kind of ran into them. And then on TV, he cursed, and for me, that's not that big of a deal. Obviously, there's TV rules. If there's younger kids watching, fine, but that's not what the fine was for. If there was a fine for that, I would have been like, that's not fair. But endangering people on pit road, crew members, just people that had hot passes, reporters, that is not okay. So the punishment justifies what he did. I would say $50,000, yes, is hefty, but there's a time and a place for showing your anger and how you show it. This probably was not the best. Now, we all remember at New Hampshire Motor Speedway with the rain-delayed race, or the rain-ended race, they started off the race and all the Joe Gibbs cars basically wrecked. Kyle showed his displeasure by almost spinning the pace car, and he was not fined for that. So if they let that slide, having a punishment now for this incident, I think was definitely justified. So unfortunate for Kyle Busch, but I'm hoping he does not carry this anger and this frustration into the next round, because moods of a driver, or like the energy of a driver, really goes through the whole team. And if the driver's upset, the driver's angry, the whole team is off. So hopefully they can move on, forget about this as much as they can, go to Richmond and run a really good race. That's my hope anyways. That's what I think will happen. And if he's still angry, Kyle Busch is a good angry driver. So we'll see what happens to Kyle Busch coming up this weekend at Richmond. Finally, to close out updates and hot takes, take a look. That's right, the next-gen cars went to Daytona Tuesday and Wednesday to test some things out on the track in packs and in groups. All the major teams went there to test, and let me just say, if you've watched the channel for a while, this is all I've ever wanted, because I've harped on the fact that NASCAR really needs to take their practice with the next-gen car and the cars in general to real race simulated types of stuff. Not just running single car laps, they need to run in packs, and especially with the safety concerns that have been presented in rumors and updates about the next-gen car and its progress, it was so important to take these cars to Daytona and run real race simulated situations. So I think it was very important to do. The drivers had a lot of good feedback. Also, there is a rear view camera on the car, which none of us were aware of until it showed up on Twitter yesterday. So that's going to be a little different with the next-gen car, but the main concern right now is the heat in the cockpits of the cars. Drivers say it's getting really hot in there. They're not really sure how to fix it yet, but that's an issue that they are working on. Otherwise, things seem pretty positive. Drivers are still kind of unsure, but at least comfortable enough to be riding in those packs. So I was very pleasantly surprised to see that they were riding in packs, that they were also doing single car laps to simulate, like I said, real life situation stuff for safety concerns, addressing those first and foremost. So kudos to NASCAR for getting that done this week. Talking about the cars themselves, they sound much different. In the video that you heard with Chris Buescher's in-car audio and even just them on the track, the sound is much deeper, and I'm not a technician. I don't know much about cars. I know how to say how they run a little bit, but I'm not sure the mechanics that go into why they sound a little darker in tone. But it's definitely very different, and if you're at the track, you'll definitely notice a difference from if you went this model of car to the next gen car. It's going to sound much different to you, but I actually really like it. It's kind of soothing. It's more soothing, I think, than the high-pitched motors that we have now. So that's the first difference. Second difference, numbers have been confirmed. They're on the cars. Take a look at these examples. This is Austin Dillon's car that he posted on Twitter, and this is a better representation of what we'll see versus the Kurt Busch number 45 car that seemingly had a lot of us, including myself, upset. It looks better as things are more complete, but still the number needs to be moved back 1 or 2 inches. I know it's counterintuitive because they want the numbers as far away from the middle of the car as possible, but I still think it looks gross. I'm going to be real with you guys. I still think they need to really consider the numbers being that far forward. Another example, though, of what I think they did right, and I know this is not a real paint scheme they're going to do, I don't think. I wish it was. But this is the Stewart-Haas 41 car, which looks so incredibly cool. It looks so vintage. I love it. If it was like this, I know the numbers are really small. Nevertheless, I can get on board with this number placement if it is this way. And the final example is the only original Chip Ganassi Racing next-gen car I think that we'll see before the team turns into Trackhouse Racing. Their assets are sold over to Trackhouse Racing for next season. Again, the same issue with the numbers. I'm also not a really big fan of the paint scheme. And I'm also kind of bummed that this is, I think, the only time and last time we're going to see a next-gen car with Chip Ganassi Racing attached to it. So I'm kind of bummed, but I don't know. Those were all the updates and hot takes for this week. Let me know in the comments below what you think about the number placement, if you like it, if you don't. If you liked what you saw on the track this week as they tested at Daytona, next week, prefacing this now, there's going to be a lot to talk about as the schedule is rumored to drop according to Adam Stern for the 2022 season. Already some upsets, already some excitement in that. So we'll talk about that all next week. But now it's time to preview the Federated Auto Parts 400 saluted to first responders at Richmond Raceway. As always on Above the Yellow Line, let's start out with some track facts. The track length is 0.75 miles long. The race length is 400 laps or 300 miles. Stage 1 is 80 laps, Stage 2 is 155 laps, and the final stage is 165 laps. After track facts, let's line up the field for this weekend's race, and with the pole, no surprise, Kyle Larson and then Denny Hamlin right beside him. Rounding out the rest of the top 10 is Truex, Kurt Busch, Harvick, Logano, Keselowski, Blaney, Almirola, and Christopher Bell. Now let's line up the odds for this weekend, seeing how we can determine our race-winning pick. The active driver with the most track wins is Kyle Busch with 6. Again, the active driver with the best average finish at the track is Kyle Busch with an average finishing position of 6.81. The active team with the most track wins is Joe Gibbs Racing with 16. And the manufacturer with the most wins, no surprise, a Chevrolet, 38 now with Alex Bowman's win in the spring. So those are your track facts and driver stats this weekend for Richmond. Now let's go into my race winning picks because I'm going to need all the help I can get with those statistics, and hopefully they serve me right this weekend. A statistic we should not have to be worried about this weekend unless something goes terribly wrong is Kyle Larson. He should do well this weekend. Now, if you know my channel Above the Yellow Line, if you're watching it, you've watched the channel for a while, you know I have a rule where we do not choose Kyle Larson for a race-winning pick or a garage pick because it's just too easy. It is a safety net. But for the playoff points, and because I'm doing the bracket and the garage and race-winning pick with the buddies and the crew of Above the Yellow Line, I'm implementing a new rule specifically for this because it's worth points now. We're playing for points, we're playing for bragging rights, and the winner at the end of the playoffs who has the most points about race-winning picks and garage picks gets a die cast from everybody that's involved. So if I win, I get a 1x64 die cast from Adam, Dom, and Zach, and vice versa. So there's stake in the game. Kyle Larson, though, you can only use him twice as a race-winning pick and twice as a garage pick. And if he's in the championship 4, obviously you can use him for that because if he's your championship pick, you want to make sure you play your cards right. That all being said, This weekend, though, Kyle Larson is not going to be my race winning pick or garage pick. I want to use him for a road course race maybe, or another track that he's really good at. I know he's won at this track before. But this weekend for my garage pick, I'm going with a Ford. I feel like I need a Ford and Toyota this weekend. I'm not going Chevy because the last thing I saw from Hendrick Motorsports was not good at last weekend's race at Darlington. And I think they need to sort some things out over there before we get back in race winning mode. So I'm going with Joey Logano this weekend as my garage pick. He's won at the track before. He's won in the past 5 races. So I think it's pretty promising for Joey Logano this weekend. I think the Fords and Penske's can really pick it up. They're all starting within the top 10 right next to each other. Joey Logano, I think, is ahead of his teammates if I'm remembering correctly. So he's going to have good track position. He's also very good at this track. He's very aggressive. So I think that will serve him well. But I'm also pumping the brakes on making him my race winning pick because the Toyotas statistically have been much better at this track in the past few years. So for that reason alone, I'm going to do a double take from last weekend, a round 2 if you will, taking Kyle Busch as my race-winning pick. Hopefully this weekend it works out better. I know I had concerns for him going into this weekend that he might be angry or he might be upset, and that could really determine how his team handles this weekend, how he does. But I also know that he is a good angry driver, like I mentioned before. He's also very good at this track. He has won, again, in the past 5 races. He's won back-to-back. For those reasons alone, I think Kyle Busch is going to put his game face on, hopefully turn the team around, turn his whole playoffs around how they started, and win this weekend for the Federated Auto Parts 400 at Richmond Raceway. Fingers crossed for Kyle Busch to do well this weekend. Do you think he's going to do well? Let me know in the comments below, and thank you all so much for watching this video of Above the Yellow Line, the show where we talk all about the NASCAR Cup Series. Watch all the action this weekend on NBCSN for Richmond Raceway at 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time this Saturday. Make sure you tune in Saturday, not Sunday. I need to remember that with the Saturday races coming up this week and next week. So make sure you don't miss it. Also, the other races this weekend, the Xfinity Series and Truck Series are all racing this weekend as well. So you don't want to miss the action there. You also don't want to miss the action on my Twitter page. Follow along on my Twitter page for race day coverage and for daily NASCAR content and updates. Also check out the Podium Finish and their social media pages and website for lap-by-lap coverage, driver interviews, and so much more. All of those are linked in the comments below, but before you do that, make sure you like and subscribe, share this with your friends and family, and thank you all so much again for supporting Above the Yellow Line, and until next time, I'll see ya.